Hey guys, what's up? It's a Monday, so it's time for yet another edition of the Breakfast Club. I'm a bit behind on this one. I apologize for missing last week. Basically, work and stuff just got ahead of me, and not only that, but just some family things. But got that past me, so I can try to quickly whip this one out. Now, I did promise that the next thing I was going to take up was going to be on a subject that I really don't like talking much about. Please excuse the background noise. Anyway, subject I don't really like talking about too much, and that's racism. The reason why I don't like talking about it is because I can never seem to get into the subject before tempers start flaring and people start saying stupid things. And I'm not just talking about one group or one type of person. It's like anybody I talk about this to, sooner or later I start hearing stupid stuff. And at my age, I decided I'm just tired of bringing it up unless I'm with somebody who is willing to actually get to the nitty gritty of the subject. However, the angle that I'm going to be tackling it in, and the actual topic I'm going to be bringing up, may not be something that you would expect. It's going to be coming from a different angle, and it's going to be giving an opinion that I'm not really sure other people have. But again, the reason why we have this channel here is for discussion, right? So here's a little food for thought. Several weeks back, someone I know had posted up somewhere about their problem with a certain phrase that tends to be used a lot to describe a certain group of people. And the phrase he had a problem with, the term he had a problem with, I should say, is the term white trash. He didn't like that particular term, particularly because he felt it had a racial component to it. Namely, the whole white part was a way of denigrating a certain group of white people. And he felt that while it may not necessarily be at the same level as other racial insults, it's still something that he feels is bandied about a little too easily and has a certain racial weight to it that maybe we should examine. Now, I agree with him, but it's probably not for the same reasons he has. Because you see, that term, white trash, yes, it does have a racial connotation to it, but not in the way that some people may think. It's not that, as some people who get hit with the term may think, a way of insulting them because they're white. It's a term to insult them despite the fact that they may be considered white. In other words, instead of it saying that, oh, we're calling you this because of your lack of melanin, no, what it's actually saying is you're worthless even though you have a lack of melanin. For anybody who is, and by the way, well, I say melanin, by the way, because, in the US, that happens to be the main event, quote unquote, when it comes to racism, the whole thing between white and black people. I, of course, am not forgetting the fact that other groups, other ethnicities have had to deal with this as well. But usually when we're talking about American racism, it always boils down to white people versus black people. And I don't really mean to dumb it down in that way, but just for the sake of argument, that's why I brought up the whole melanin thing. Besides, I'm really speaking from my own experience here because, well, I'm somebody with an excess of melanin. Well, not excess, whatever. You know what I mean. That aside, but if you notice with certain racial insults, whenever people are, you know, coming up with terms, the different phrases used for other people, I rarely ever hear the word trash in connotation with them. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure somebody said like black trash or Chinese trash or whatever, but that's not something that's common. That's not the common insults. But when it comes to white people, all of a sudden, you got that trash term thrown in. The reason for this is simple. In a nation where supposedly white is the greatest thing to be, where that for a while was considered to be the standard, they were basically saying, yeah, but you guys, the ones that gave the liberals, they say, yeah, if we're white, we're on the top of the ladder, but you guys just barely qualify. You particular lot, you just barely make it to the level of being human. You just barely make it to a class of people that deserve some kind of rights, which is still trash, so know your place. That's what that phrase means. And you can only get something like that from people who are above you. And, well, for anybody who's going to get mad at any minorities for using that term, remember that those minorities are not, quote unquote, above you in the social ladder. Even though there's so many fears, like, oh yeah, well, there's rich black people, there's rich middle class people, but they don't, they're not the ones who can, for instance, change interest rates. They're not the ones who happen to be able to influence government enough to change laws, to change things to the point where it's easier for them to get jobs, or easier for them to, avoid getting profiled by police and having a harder time getting past, the justice system and so on and so forth. They don't have that sort of power. Only the people who have that sort of power can come up with a phrase that says, yeah, you just barely make it on our end of the social ladder, but we can still do whatever the hell we want with you. And by that I mean get you to fight our wars, clean our garbage, and be our entertainment. And unfortunately, the group of people who have that term white trash put on them, that's pretty much how they're used. When wars happen, they're the ones who end up losing their sons and now daughters in wars overseas. You rarely happen to see the upper class versions of whites having to deal with this unless they really want to, and then they just make sure they happen to be the officers or generals positions, right? But the regular, grunts, foot soldiers, all that, yeah, you get them from, the Bible Belts, the Midwest, the poor areas. They're the ones who end up having to take the harsher jobs, the coal mining jobs, the factory jobs. And then when those jobs dry up, well, then what do these people have? They're the ones who end up on talk shows like Jerry Springer for the entertainment of other people. Look how backwards these guys are, that sort of thing. They're the ones who have to endure the stereotypical insults. Incest, and getting fat, and not having much, in the way of proper diction in English. All these type of things are levied upon them. But they're also told, well, like every now and then, if you need to keep them in line, you're still better than these other people, which is the same trick they've been using on these guys way back in the beginning. Way back in the beginning, in the South. I shouldn't say the beginning. It's a little just, but you know what I mean. You can go further back to when, just before the Civil War, the whole slavery issue thing. Yeah, at least you guys aren't slaves. You're better than that. You're higher level than that. You with us. Now get the fuck off my property. Because remember, these people aren't allowed to, own as much land as the plantation owners, and they certainly better not be staying on the plantation. And go back to the shacks. That's where they belong. But be the foot soldiers to keep things in line just in case these slaves escape. The Civil War is over with. These people are getting even more abused and angry, and then you start having the Jim Crow laws, and you need some feet on the ground to help enforce that stuff. So once again, you go to the people who you insult, the people who you think are beneath you, but they have same looking skin, so you got to make them think that they're on your side, but you secretly think that they're subhuman. So you give them the rifles and you give them the torches and have them doing all the dirty work. Meanwhile, you still get to live in the mansions. You still get to live high up on the plantation. And it goes on to this day. These people are still being exploited and still being made fun of, but they're getting it from everywhere now. They're definitely getting from minority groups, because the minority groups, when they think of racism, they think of these people, because these were the people who were put on the front lines to fight that war for them. These were the people put on the front lines to help enforce that code, while they themselves are suffering a different type of exploitation. The ones higher up get to stay behind the nicer walls. They get to enjoy the fruits of these guys' labor, just like they enjoyed the fruits of other people's labor. And in return, they get an epithet that basically tells them, you just about make it on our level of things. Just about, but not quite, which is why we can call you trash. That's what that phrase means. That's the racial side of it. It's not saying that you're bad because you're white. It's basically saying you're bad, you're worthless, despite the fact that you are. That's what that phrase means. If you got a problem with it, take it up with the people that the rest of us have been trying to deal with for quite some time now. The ones holding the leash. So yeah, that's my perspective on it. That's what I've noticed. That's what I've seen. You can't exactly blame the people on the ground with you for how the social structure works, because the rest of us weren't the ones who really created it. We may be complicit in a lot of it because we help to continue things, even subconsciously. We help to sometimes continue to perpetuate shit that continues to keep us all down. But as far as creating it, setting it up, completely benefiting from it, it's not the average person that you'd be having a problem with. It's the one doing the exploiting. So for anybody who happens to be listening to this who's offended by that term, who would be considered one of those people, I ask you to think about what I just said. It's a little food for thought. Just a bit of food for thought. It's not the minorities who are exploiting you. It's not them who are holding you back. It's the one who put you in this system of exploitation to begin with. Remember that at the end of the day, despite the fact that you're supposedly on the superior side of things, you're never really allowed to enjoy the fruits of that supposed superiority. You're never really allowed to stay on the plantation in the higher end of things. You're not in the good social clubs. You don't get to hang out with the rich. Donald Trump isn't allowing you to chill with him in the White House. He's not, talking with you when he talks about all the things that he gets to do with women. You're not the type of people he's chilling with. Or he'll make it sound like it when he's doing his rallies, but at the end of the day, when the rallies are over and you guys are finished wearing the red hats, he leaves and he makes sure none of you people are coming with him. You don't get to party with him. You don't get to party with those who are above you. You get kicked back to the shacks while being told and being pumped up enough to, be our foot soldiers for us. Continue to keep the other guys down, but don't you dare step on my fucking front lawn. Don't fucking think about it. And if you think that I'm wrong about that, if you think he really cares about you, consider the one statistic that I tend to get hit with whenever I happen to point out the disproportionate way that minorities tend to be targeted by the police. There's more white people getting killed by cops. Yeah, if you're looking at raw numbers, that's true. I don't want to really go into the whole thing of proportions. I just want to point out the fact that, you are getting killed by the cops, but which ones you think are getting killed? The ones who get to chill out and wearing a nice suit every day? Or the ones who have to, suffer the indignity of being called white trash? That should get you thinking. Why is it that those people have to disproportionately be targeted by the police as well as those that they think deserve to be targeted by the police? Because you're unwanted here. That's why. You're tolerated by the powers that be. And I think that's a much bigger insult than anything a minority person could ever tell you. Again, food for thought. But hey, you don't have to pick up on and put down. At this point, I've really stopped caring about what you guys are going to be doing around here. And when I say these guys, I mean just about everybody in the country, because I've kind of given up. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to say what I see. I just don't expect people to be able to do anything positive with this information. I guess that makes me a little bit too much of a pessimist, but at my age, I'm just getting tired. Sorry, but I do hope this at least giving you guys some food for thought. And, something to think about. Something to maybe discuss for a positive outcome. One can hope. Catch you guys later.